Man up from Mars, he tripping, I put that on guard. I got the digits, but I am not calling. Wizard at night, this be that forum. I'm just gonna stack with that. Sunshine after that. Just gonna stack with that. Sunshine after that. So yeah, you know, I had a conversation with her, but it's like the signals is always crossed. I mean, like, I say yes, cause she asked me to say yes. And then she's like, I didn't want you to say yes. I wanted you to understood that a yes was required to answer the question. I was like, what?
Hello. Welcome to the spot, the Stacked After Hours spot. I am your host, Natalie Cosby, and welcome to the show for Grown Folk Talk. And as we continue our conversation around Black love, it's Valentine's Day preparation. So tonight's show, we are talking about love language and how do you know and how do you use it within your relationships. So y'all get ready, get your cocktails because we want to hear from you. Keep those fingertips loose because we want to hear those comments and questions from you. So here at Style, we keep it what? Lit and enlightening. So let's get into it. Where is my sunshine? Fairy dust, Montaigne, the fairy dust. Oh my gosh.
I can never get enough of that.
I know you cannot. I know you cannot. So, Anthea, we are back to this is probably one of our first topics we dived into when we first started the show, love language. And what is it?
Yeah.
What are yours? And then actually, some people are like, I don't believe in love language. Do you believe in love language? Do you believe
No, because guess what? Every time I take that quiz,
oh my gosh.
First of all, knowing me, what do you believe my love language would be?
I feel like your love language would be like a mix of quality time and touch.
All right, let me bring it up. My love language, what it told me it was, because I took the quiz and it said quality time, words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, and then receiving gifts.
Okay.
The first time I took it, it said that acts of service was my first. Then the second time I took it, it said physical touch, and I'm confused now.
Maybe it's your mood.
Because every time I take it, it's different.
Maybe it's your mood. I think it's actually a good guide to show you where you are. I think things Go ahead, Anthea.
Okay, so you know my love language. I know your love language. Then what?
What do you think my love language is?
I I I think acts of service.
No, it's not. It's quality time. See,
I can't
we would
see
break
that.
up. We would break up if we were in a relationship.
But here is the thing. You know, if we're in a relationship, you know your love language. You know my love language. And I'm vice versa. Then what?
So you can show look. If my thing is quality time and yours is acts of service, you're like, Natalie, quality time is cool, but I like when you do things for me. I know that and I can show appreciation to that and it opens up a whole new channel for me. What's wrong with that? You get to know yourself, you get to know
I just feel like our grandparents, Uncle Earl and Aunt Bertha, did not have a guide or text.
But go ahead.
They didn't have a textbook version of what love is, and they were together. They were together for years. They figured it out. Guess what? Guess what matters to me more than love language?
What?
Communication. Because if you talk to each other, then you would know what somebody like or don't like. But
Okay, so
they're
yes.
going into a textbook version to get
It's
a
not a
quiz.
textbook version, but there's various things. The quiz. If anybody didn't take the quiz, please take the quiz. The various thing is that you choose what you are drawn to. What moves you? How do you like to be loved? I don't see anything wrong with
Okay,
that.
you see,
And also, we could say, wait, Aunt Bertha and Uncle Sonny were also, they had their ups and downs. Uncle Sonny may have had an actual another family out there. Girl, stop playing with me. Like, I think the thing is,
may have, but
they
may not
have, and
have.
Aunt Bertha may have stayed just out of because she had no other choices. We are in a
How,
new age,
see,
Anthea,
first
and I
of
think
all,
it's
we are making an assumption that Aunt Bertha was not the one with the second family, but we gonna continue with Aunt Bertha.
whatever. What I'm trying to say is like I think we're at a point now where we can get to know ourselves better. We should know what we like. We should be able to use our words and communicate that. It also it look. I think
Thank
there's a lot.
you. Communication.
Part of it is communication, but it's more than just communication. You can talk each other to death, and they're still not
But,
satisfied.
but hold on. Communication is not just about talking. Body language is communicating
Exactly.
something, right? So for me, today, my love language says I like quality time. And I'm like, why are you up under me all the time? Like, can you go out there and put some flowers in my garden for me? Like, that's going to make me happy. If somebody put some flowers in my garden for me, I'll be fine.
Hi, Kim. You know what? You're right. But it may be a mix. It's not all or nothing. It's interesting because mine was different from a couple years ago. Quality time was always number one. Acts of service, which is actually number three. Gifts came up high for me this time, which is not a big thing. But I think I had just come off of receiving a gift from my partner and I was excited. And I think the thing is, it's just like, you know what? I don't experience that. And so it was nice to have. So sometimes a surprise is not high on my list, but I think we all have them. I think it's just
Listen, I
cool to know
also think we
you,
all have those qualities. I like quality time. I like acts of service. I like all of that.
yes.
Gifts. I like whatever, touch, whatever it is. I like everything.
So Anthony,
So,
let's back it up. Hold on, hold on. You meet someone new, right?
I,
You meet someone new.
mhm,
He's bombarding you with gifts and so on. You like him, but he's bombarding you with gifts,
mhm.
right? And that's how he shows love. That's
Okay.
how he shows that he appreciates you. He's like, babe, I got you a gift. Da, 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 da. He's not necessarily keen
I'm
on.
not complaining.
I know, but the thing is, it's just like, but you know what? I want to spend time. You're always on the run. That's how I really like art. Not saying you have to stop giving gifts, but how I appreciate love is our quality time or our acts of service. Like I
So let
want
me ask you a
mm,
question. So wait, okay, I'm glad. Let's go with this theory and this
go
process.
ahead, continue.
So he's a big CEO, he travels. His
Right,
only way to get to, love me is to send gifts.
right.
Okay. He takes the love language test. I take the love language test and he realized that quality time is my love language. What he gonna do? Quit his job?
No, I'm not saying that he quits his job. Quality time is not the how much time, it's what you do in your time that you're together.
Okay. All right. So
So
then
he's
we
like,
have a
you know
nice
what? When I
we have
come
a nice
home, when I
we have a
come
nice
home,
date.
hold on. I'm going to come home. I'm going to make an effort for us to do something that is good QT for you and for me so we can make sure that our relationship is strong. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying the love language theory is a textbook version of how you should love. And I feel like love should just come naturally. And
Mhm.
that's just my theory, man. This
Okay.
love language thing is really confusing to me. All I'm saying is if I'm with someone and we can't communicate or verbalize what I like or what I not like, and I have to take a test in order to figure out what you like or what I like, I'm sorry, I ain't go for it.
I think it's more than a test. I think it's knowing who you are and how you
If
love.
the whole test thing is just like for me,
Let's
Uncle,
go beyond the test.
Uncle,
Let's move,
Uncle
let's put
Earl
it,
and
you know what? Let's bring on the panel and put it into context because I think the thing is that we have some men that I think can help us shed some light on this. So let's, Montaigne, bring them
yeah.
in. Hello, ladies and gents. How's everybody doing? Wow, what a panel, what a panel, what a panel. So let's welcome back the creator and producer of our theme song, Malik Kayem. Hi, Malik. Oh, wow. And then she is an ex video vixen. And I want to know which video you have been in. I'm really curious. I really, really, really want to know. She's a
Oh,
high,
Please
she's
don't say Keith Sweat.
no.
And then super excited, super excited. He recently was hiking in Bhutan, and he is the author of Ignite the Power in Women, A Man's Guide. We're gonna call him Theo tonight, but y'all know him as Simon T. Bailey. Hi, Theo. Welcome.
Hola.
Welcome
Hi.
to Stacked. Welcome to Stacked After Hours. So we want to continue this conversation, you guys. And so I actually, let's start here. What is y'all's love language? Or did y'all take the test?
Yes, I did. I took the test.
What is your love language, Anne?
So I had two that were top, and on the test it was intellectual and financial. So those were
Okay,
my
so
top two.
I took the other one. There's one with seven. This is there's what?
That was the seven. That,
Yeah,
that
that
was
was a
the
seven.
seven.
So
Mhm.
intellectual and financial. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. And do you feel does that has that been holding true to your
For me, it was absolutely true
okay.
because, in my experience, my father, he had a saying all the time that living is giving. Like that was his life's philosophy. So I grew up with a lot of giving. And what was so true about the description, it wasn't so much a dollar amount, it was more of an acknowledgement. Whatever, if I did well in school, it was a gift. It could have been money. It could have been bringing home my favorite dessert. So it was always for me that giving was showing love. So it wasn't so much like, oh, I think people think hear financial and they hear, oh, she's a gold digger, she wants money. But it's no, it's more like an acknowledgement that you see me and you notice me because I don't want dollars. I want to know that you know what I like
Got
and you appreciate it
got
and you can see something I like and pick it up and I know that you cared because you know that I would like it. So I thought that was very true because also I have to be able to communicate with someone intellectually, so those two were very true for me.
Thea, what was yours?
Intellectual and physical, and then obviously words of affirmation and physical touch.
Okay, okay. Has that held true throughout your life, or did it in your last couple of years? Usually that exhibits in your relationship now.
I think it's evolved. So when I've taken it before, one of the things you will realize that the person that you were when you first took it, you're not the same person because research says that your body changes blood cells every 90 to 100 days. So you are in a different season for a different reason. As you are evolving and growing, you're expanding, your consciousness is expanding. So that's number one. And I think number two, the other thing I realized that when I pay attention to your love language, I'm making it about you, not about me. And when I
Mm,
make it about you, what I begin to understand, if I'm putting something in the emotional bank account, then I have something to withdraw, but I cannot withdraw if there's a deficit in the account because I am trying to love you in the way that I think you should be loved, which feeds my cup and feeds my soul, but does not fill your cup or feed your soul. So it's really understanding how do I recognize what's important to you.
Simon, I Theo, I could not have said that better. Thank you. I agree. We change. That's why I was trying to tell Anthea. I think it does switch up. But uh Malik, what was yours? I'm curious.
Mines were intellectual and emotional.
Okay.
78, yeah, 78. Yep,
I
those are the
didn't
two
take that
highest.
test.
And I
This
guess
was
my love language was quality time and physical touch.
quality time and okay. So I think the thing is just like somebody told me they was just like don't tell me how to love you. And I'm like, okay, but you're not I don't feel loved. And I always feel like the communication in telling someone their love language, I feel like their ego always gets in the way. Do y'all feel like that's been an issue in your relationships when you communicate the love language or how you want to be loved or so on and so forth? How has that shown up?
I think what I've discovered in the past when I've told a person how I need to be loved, it's like me giving the key to my heart. But if they don't know how to put the key in the door, they'll never open the door to my heart. Hence, they will be invited to find their happiness elsewhere. So I think it's really important to show up and say, "This is what I need. This is what excites me." And love is not what it says; it's what it does. And when I truly love someone, I'm becoming selfless instead of selfish.
Mm, mm. Oh,
But Theo, you're not in a relationship and you meet someone and you said, hey, you're saying this is how I want to be loved, but you're not saying, well, my love language is quality time. So I want you to spend quality time with me, or my love language is physical touch. You're not doing that, right? You're communicating your likes and dislikes and it, in general.
Yes.
I think
So
my issue is 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 this path that this test is paving, and it's kind of like a cheat sheet for me into a relationship. So you really don't get to develop to understand the person that you're with and find it out. And it's like a nice, rhythm of finding out how each other operates, and you talk to each other, and you learn each other's love language without going on a test and actually having this test tell you, oh, this is how you're supposed to be loved, or he's supposed to be loved.
I don't know if I agree with that because I feel like it's a part of your nature and sometimes it's in you or it's not. And I remember that a defining moment for me is when I watched this Alana Van Zant very short, like 1 minute clip. And she talked about the end of her relationship. And she was with this person for 14 years. And she said after 14 years, she kept saying, I love this person, but I wish they would do things this way, or I wish they'd do things that way. And 14 years, you should know how to love that person. And she said, I realized they didn't know how to love me and I couldn't participate in this anymore. And that sunk in with me because the way you need to be loved because you love someone, it doesn't mean that who they are and that they can participate in it and they can love you the way you want to. And for me, because my top two are, intelligence and financial, someone that's generous, that's something that's in you. It's not something that, you know, I'm going to do something for someone and be passive aggressive or resentful about it. If you're not a genuine person to come home and be like, I saw this cupcake that I know is your favorite that you'd love, and I know I like that and I'm excited, the person will never get it. Like it just won't. And you can love them, but if they're not showing your language, it doesn't work. And I
I
don't
think
feel like you can learn someone.
I do. I agree. I think it comes up as unappreciative, right? We'll see.
Yes.
I think that person, you're like, I'm thinking about you. That's
Mm-hmm.
unappreciative. And so
Right.
I think it's a miss for
Mm-hmm.
each one of you.
Now,
Absolutely. It's a miss.
can I ask
Yeah.
a quick question?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Does this love language, and I'm just kind of thinking of the language part of it, does this only translate to romantic interactions? Can you also communicate your love language to a friend or to a parent? Can you say like, hey,
Absolutely. Right.
I, I,
Absolutely.
I guess my
Because that's
question is, since you
mm-hmm.
don't do that, your friendships just seem to naturally progress, and your relationships with family naturally progress without you saying, hey, mom, my love language is quality time. After I finish
Exactly.
my homework,
Exactly.
I need you to spend 20 minutes with me. You don't do that. You just naturally develop rhythms And even with your friends, you
Right,
don't
but
tell your friends.
I think we're like trying to literally put it like, "Hey, mom, my lane." No, I think it's more so understanding who you are. Is it not? I
Mhm.
think it's really telling you what you really like and what, because we don't. I think the one thing about relationships, it also reflects how the reflection of how people receive us and what we're actually putting out. So
But
I think it's one of those things where no, it does apply to all relationships, and you do have a natural rhythm, but you understand what your rhythm is.
but I guess in keeping
Mhm.
with what Sunshine said, I think there's a component of psychological preparedness that occurs once you have this information. It's kind of like once I have this in my mind that this is my love language, whether I'm sure it is or isn't, it's like you then begin looking for ways to affirm that this person is hitting those targets. And sometimes I don't, sometimes we click these buttons, but there's no nuance. It's not accounting for certain variables. So it's like you just have kind of two or three choices, because it was like some of the choices I didn't like any of them, but I had to pick one. So is it really reflective of who I am? Wouldn't it be better for me to just really interact with this person and see how we engage each other?
I mean, I I think my question with that, I agree with you. I think there is a rhythm. But I think the key thing is knowing yourself. Hi, Monique. I think it's about knowing yourself. I mean, I so think about this. You have a partner. Y'all have all had partners or been in relationships, and how do you know, or what have you done to make that person feel appreciated, heard, accepted, cared for, and loved? What can you do, and how do you know what to do?
I think you have to try everything. I think you have to run the gambit, and then you see what sticks well. It's like if I wake up in the morning and put gas in your car because it's cold out, and it doesn't resonate with you, the same way if I bring home flowers, if I'm emotionally intelligent and spiritually available to you, I'm gonna kind of connect it. Like, okay, she doesn't really care if I do little things like make sure her car is full with gas. Or here's the thing: is if you just try to do everything for your partner, if you treat someone like you said, when you know yourself, you know how you want to be treated in life. So I believe if people tend to treat people the way they want to be treated, you would kind of hit all bases. Like my big thing is M&M peanuts. So if anybody brings me M&M peanuts, I'm on cloud nine. And it's not a big thing. It's not like, oh my God, this girl brought me like a Gucci jacket. It's just like, oh, I like these things. You've seen them around my house. You pay attention. And she's like, hey, you like these? I see that you have like 10 in the garbage. And here, you know what I mean? So I think it's just being genuine.
Hmm.
And you see, and I don't agree with that because I feel like it's nature versus nurture, and at the end of the day, there are things that are naturally innate to people. And someone waking up and putting gas in your car because they saw your gas was low, that goes back to my financial, like, wow, this person saw a need and they filled it. They saw my gas was low. They found it upon themselves to take the time to do that. They really care about me and they saw that need. And a lot of people, they don't have that. They might woke you up and said, hey, did you know you need a gas? Oh, stop for gas on your way to work. And you're saying to yourself, well, weren't you in the car last? So it's again, to me, it's like it's either within you, that's your nature. And I'm not looking to force anybody to find, what appeals to me. It's either it's naturally in them and we're going to click. And if it's not, then I'm absolutely not going to participate and step away because I don't want to force anyone to do anything against their nature.
So let's take it from this point of view. So think about the things that you have complained about a partner, or your partner has complained about you, and what you are not getting from them, and how did that play out for you? I'm gonna Theo, you're shaking your head. You're like,
It played out for me because I got divorced.
Right.
Played-
Absolutely.
I think it played out because after 25 years of being married, we stopped cherishing each other and stopped really understanding each other's language. So she was speaking this way, I was speaking that way, and we were not on the same page. Number one. Number two, when there was nothing left in the tank and you try to persevere, you go to counseling, you go to therapy, you do all the things that you know to do. And then when it comes down to your intimacy is really kind of taking one for the team because the therapist told you that you need to do that, right? That is so old. That dog will not hunt, right? And then I think the third thing is it's really understanding you come to a place of I'm about to be 50 and I'll be doggone if I'm going to go into my 50s not feeling cherished, seen, valued, appreciated, understood. And so you make a decision, right? And you do what you need to do.
Mhm.
So our love language is the like button. Yes, it is. Yeah, I mean, I, I think I was talking to my friend and she was just like, I keep telling him how I want to be loved. And he's like, don't tell me what to do. And I'm like, well, I
Stop
just
participating.
I think when somebody is telling you something about themselves and it makes you uncomfortable because you're just like, I don't want to do that. What happens? Like Marie,
So
go ahead.
So if I tell you not to tell me what to do, I'm going to give it to you from a man's angle because I was that same guy. What
Hmm.
I heard, you sound just like my mother, and you're trying to tell me what to do. And it's not that you're trying to tell me what to do. I heard it through a filter of, oh, you're going to kind of control me, and I'm the man around here. And I took it totally out of
Communication.
context, not to understand your heart. Because whenever you connect in a relationship, there are three things that are happening. You're communicating, you're connecting, and you're caring. But you'll never get to the care if there's a disconnection in the communication because I heard what I wanted to hear. In my issue as a man, I had selective hearing instead of authentic listening. So I wasn't listening to you. Oh, you trying to tell me what to do. You don't know me like that. Like we start getting into our head and getting in our way.
Right.
But I think if you can't get to the caring, that means the person that's not actively listening is not caring enough to get there. And that's when I'm
Exactly.
like, it's
Yeah.
okay. That means that I can't participate in this anymore because I'm not going to force somebody to care on the level that I need them to. So
Exactly.
if I'm seeing that something's missing or we've had this conversation, hey, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you put gas in the car? Or why didn't you do that? And it never happens, then I have to say, okay, well, you don't care enough about me to make these things happen. So then it's not a good fit.
And to that point, one more thing. There should, to build on what you just said, there should be a point where you don't have to tell grown people how to do certain things.
Amen.
They can take
Exactly.
a
Amen.
mental leap, read the
Hmm.
tea leaves, pay attention to what's going on, have some emotional intelligence to understand, oh, this is what's happening, and read between the lines. You just
Hmm.
get it, you figure it out.
So do
Hmm. Exactly.
so going back to this. So what is so as Anthea said, what is the benefit in knowing your love language then?
I
For
think the
me, the
love
benefit
language,
is knowing that what you're not going to accept because you're going to constantly want to change that person. And sometimes we look for things in people that are more physical, that are more on paper, or we think this person looks good with us or on paper, and they're not meeting your needs, and they're not meeting your love
So,
language, and you have to let it go because it's not
so
right.
you're telling me, so you're telling me you need to know somebody's love language to know what you're not going to accept. You don't need that. You know what you're not going
Hmm.
to accept
Right, but
before
that's
a
what
love
I'm
language.
saying. You know within yourself what's acceptable. And sometimes we're with people for the wrong reasons. So you overlook the things you actually really need in that relationship. So that's when it's time. You have to know yourself.
Yeah.
And let me ask, so do you
Yeah.
think that people
You
that
don't,
speak the same love language should only be with each other?
I,
I
don't-
don't
I
think
can't
it's the
speak for
same.
people.
Because
yeah.
Yeah.
here's what I'm trying to say, I guess
Mm-hmm.
in simplistic terms,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I speak English and you speak Mandarin, no matter how much I might try to learn that language, I'm still not going to have the same, what do you call it? Je ne sais quoi for speaking that language as a native speaker, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
your love language is receiving gifts and my love language is physical touch, I may try to buy you gifts, but like Ann said, it will not be something innate to me. I might always find oh, she's a gold digger or she's trying to take advantage of me. You know, it might not be natural. Whereas another guy who might make less money than me, he grew up in a household, he was showered with gifts and affection. And like, you know, so he would naturally do little things. So that's what I'm saying is maybe once we do know our love language, the goal is to find someone who speaks that same exact language.
For me, that's the goal. Yeah, I can't be with someone that I can't relate to. So,
So if somebody is not, so I think the whole thing is like when we get in relationships, our goal is to be open and vulnerable, right? So
mhm,
if I'm with someone who likes gifts, but we also have good quality time, and maybe I don't give the gifts as often as they would like, but it may be little things like, oh, I thought of you, da 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 da, as
mhm,
Ann said, or whatever, and it works. I mean, I guess to me, is it more so willingness, or you have to speak the exact same language?
Well, Kimberly in the comments said it best. Once you know the love language, you have the opportunity to speak it and understand your partner better. Kimberly, thank you for this brilliant comment. That's exactly it. And now you have to decide, do I want to meet this potential partner where they are? Do I want to? Because if you don't have the want to, you'll never get a chance to.
That's true.
mhm.
That's
That
true.
then
But
that goes back to what you said,
Theo,
Theo,
can I
about
just
caring. About caring, you have to care enough. You have
Yeah.
to care enough.
can I just
But, but
can
you
I
have
just
to want to care.
yeah.
Want
Right.
to care.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anthea.
Yeah, so I just wanted to challenge Theo a little bit because in the beginning you said in about 90 to 100 days we change. So you
Mhm.
understand your love language and that your partner's love language and you're working towards that and you care to work towards that. And then their love language change. Then what?
So, Sunshine, this is such a great question because if I'm really tracking with you and we're singing from the same sheet of music, I'm evolving with you as you evolve. Sometimes in your
Right,
relationship, you can be growing to a 50 by 60 mindset, but the person that you were in relationship, they're stuck back at 8 by 10 thinking, and you've moved on. So
right.
that person has got to continue to grow with you and track with you, which means you have to assess. Let me just say this. I think this whole conversation around love languages, it's just a frame of reference. It's a reference point. It's to say, okay, here's a framework that we can go through and kind of understand each other. But old school would say, if I really communicate and connect, we will know very quickly if we're meant to be together. You just intuitively know. It,
Yeah.
it won't be like a guessing game, you know?
No, I agree. Yeah. Knowing and understanding your partner's love language and trying to fulfill it is the cup, yep, in the heart of your partner and vice versa. So I was thinking, when I was thinking about it, I was like, we have our partners and they show them how to feel. For example, you might say something like, oh, I've noticed you've been stressed out and you've been trying to do things to show them that you love them. And it makes them feel loved, but it still is something that they may not actually be like, yeah, I'm stressed out, but is it a really, am I showing you love? Are you feeling important? And you just are constantly grasping for straws with that particular person. So what are the specific elements and behaviors that is important for just love to kind of blossom in a relationship when you're trying to figure each other out? I think that's the question I'm asking.
So can I just say, whatever my love language is in every 100 days, if you're gonna put gas in the car in the morning, I will be appreciative.
Gassing up the car.
Yes.
Just
Mhm,
saying.
mhm.
Gas in the car with some coffee waiting on the dashboard.
That would be
Right. Yes.
that would be
Mhm,
awesome.
I think there's three things. Number one, when you are moving from connecting to caring, you will send a text in the middle of the day with no reason. I am thinking about you. You were on my mind. And it will just happen in an organic fashion. But you don't want to become too rote. So you might do a handwritten note, or you might pick up a card just because, not because you're in trouble, but because you were thinking about that person. Those are things that are very endearing in a relationship, that's especially when it's starting, because now it's saying that you are intentional, that
Mhm.
you are thinking about me, you're not phoning it in.
That I love the spontaneous text. So I don't know if that's quality time or whatever, but I love that. That makes me smile.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, trying to figure out what makes you smile and keep you smiling, right?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think
Hmm.
that's yeah, I think that's always like, what is making this person smile and what's keeping them smiling? So I when I was thinking about, I was the other thing, I was just like, okay, so if certain behavior doesn't resonate love, what else can you do? Like if there's something you do, like Malik says, okay, I give gifts or I like words of affirmation. And I'm like, stop telling me how beautiful I am, right? I was like, I get it. What else can we talk about? What else? How do you start to kind of deal with behaviors that are not resonating, but you really do want to be together?
I'm so glad you asked this question. I got to
Mhm.
jump in. I
Jump
think one of the questions that should be asked out of the gate: what are your pet peeves and what gets on your last good nerve?
Yeah.
And if you put that out there early on, when that person steps into it and they're kind of like the deer in the headlights, looks like what just happened, they won't be as shocked if it was communicated up front that I don't want you to tell me how handsome I am. Like, can we move on? Like, do you have any other tools in your communication toolkit that we could you see? But tell me your pet peeves early out the gate. That is so helpful.
Back to
I think it's
communication.
is
Yeah.
it hard for people to communicate their pet peeves when it's brand new though? I feel like that's always like you're kind of
I think
playing
that's a
stop.
great opportunity too. That's a good time to
It
communicate
is.
your pet peeve.
Maybe I'm too direct.
But I think when you say it in the beginning, it's actually better. Like Simon says, I've never come out and said, hey, this is my pet peeve, but I have said things that, hey, like I don't like to be disturbed when I'm eating because I love my food, right? And if you say that early on and the person knows that, they won't be offended if like months down the line, all of a sudden, I don't know, I'm having this great meal and you're like interrupting me to do something really silly, or you will be offended. You may be offended because I didn't say it up front. So now it may look as if what you're doing is upsetting me versus I should have told you up front. This is something that, I don't like to be disturbed. So
The other thing,
like he said up front.
and yeah, I agree with you, Anne. And
So
and
wait,
the
wait.
other
So Ann,
thing
if
that
you're eating a meal,
Mhm.
and your man like comes to kiss you on the forehead or something, that's grounds for breakup.
No.
Is that is that like? I'm just trying to be clear here. Is that like termination? Like,
Not at all, but it's like I'm definitely a foodie and I don't snack, I don't eat in the car, I don't eat on the run. Like I want to savor, I want to sit down, I want to have wine, I want to enjoy the different flavor profiles. And if I'm letting you know that's what I'm doing because I'm not like a fast sort of, snacker, then you can respect that time and not say, you know, try to rush me or, try to do something that I don't want to do during that time I've set aside. So, yeah.
Mhm. What if I always say, like, especially with intimacy, you like one thing, he likes another. You tell him it's your pet peeve, but it's also a need that he or she has. What do
You got to
you
get
do?
down.
Like, what do you do? Like,
You
if
got to,
somebody's like, I don't want to, like, give us a moment. Don't ask me about this after we've been intimate. Or, you know,
Oh yeah,
if
I
it's
hate
something
that.
that he
I hate.
needs
What
to
is
do.
that? What love language is that?
words of affirmation. He might be like, as soon
Really?
as you know, he's like, so you
Yeah,
like
what
that girl? And you got to be like, yes, daddy, it was a great. You know what I mean? Like some people like that. What do you do?
Words of that falls under words of affirmation, Natalie.
I guess it would. I don't know. Men, brothers, does that fall under words of affirmation?
I would think if you need that kind of validation and conversation post
That's
activity.
insecurity to me.
Yeah, no, it is. But see, I think a lot of love languages speaks to insecurities. Me personally, I think
That's
But
interesting.
because I feel
but
like
let
I
me
feel like there's a level of trauma woven into most love because
Okay.
most people haven't fully healed.
Yes.
So when you say words of affirmation, that to me speaks to maybe you have insecurities that you need to be constantly validated. When you say like gifts, like even when like Ann mentioned gifts earlier, right? The first thing I'm thinking in my head is that, okay, I see you telling me what your father did for you, but I'm not your father. And I will never fill the role of your father. I'm your man. I'm going to love you in a different way. So maybe your dad brought home gifts every day because, you know, a father's love for his daughter is very different than a man loving his woman.
But the
So,
gas is a gift. The gas is a great gift.
no,
It's like,
but I'm just
fill
saying,
the
like, in
car.
the,
Is it, Malik? I don't necessarily know if that's. I don't. I
Well,
think we
wait.
usually, in some form or fashion, date our fathers,
no, but
either
this is what
in
I mean.
their
Okay, when a
best
father,
form or
this
their
is what I mean.
worst form.
When a father loves his daughter, right? Like the way I love my daughter,
Yes.
I don't look for any level of reciprocation. I 110,000% pour into my child, and I just want her to be the best version of herself she can be.
But you
I don't
provide and you protect for
necessarily
her. And that's what women want, providers and
and that's what I'm saying.
protectors.
And I don't necessarily approach my dating with that same mindset.
Why
I
So
not?
do,
you're not a provider and a protector then.
I do want certain things back from my woman. You get what I'm saying?
So,
Maybe it's like this is what I say. Like if I take my daughter out, 100% of the time I pay. But when I date a woman in my mind, I think like, okay, we're a team. So it might be 70-30, 80-20. So it's already a difference. You get what I mean? Like it's just a
No,
and I
I
Malik, you
don't.
already told us that you take every woman out the first time to the Lion King. Stop playing.
no, but I'm saying I'm
Mm.
talking about in terms of payment. Like, you know, when you take your child out, it's like I'm paying 100% of the time. But with a
Mhm.
woman, I might think, okay, this is going to be an 80-20. Like I'll pay out of 10 dates, I'll pay for 8. She might pay for 2.
So Kimberly said you don't want unconditional love from your partner.
I think you want it, but I don't think people expect it. I think people want something in return for their love. They want to be loved back.
So I want to explore this whole you don't your daughter is not supposed. I feel like we do date whatever our parents not told us, but what they showed us. Do
Oh,
y'all not
100%.
agree with that? And I think that kind of replicates how we move through life. If your father was not he was halfway present, you'll probably end up dating a man who's possibly
Present person, yeah.
halfway present. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel that. I know that has probably been my
This is
journey.
what you grew up with,
Yeah,
is what you're accustomed to.
right. I feel like I want a provider and a protector. Yeah,
And your father
that's
was
what I'd want. And that's what he was. Yes.
yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, Simon, I mean, Theo, what do you think? I
So
can't.
I have 4 daughters. One is a granddaughter, 3 daughters from 20 to 28.
Mhm.
So what I recognize is how I treat their mother says
Mhm.
everything as to how they're to be treated by a man. And that's just something that runs really deep for me, because that's where I failed the in my first marriage, right? And so now what I do with my daughters, they are totally individuals, totally different. I meet them where they are, and yes, to Doc's point is I show up and I care for them 100%. But when it comes to a relationship, I like to lean into what's important to you. How can
Mhm.
I best serve you? What turns you on, what turns you off, what lights you up, what will cause me to like hit a dead stop, right? And I think it
Mhm.
comes back to what Sunshine said at the very beginning. It's communication. It's just coming down to, can we just communicate? Can you understand me? Can I understand you?
Mm.
And it
Yeah.
goes wherever it goes.
So what happens when love gets misinterpreted for you guys? What has that looked like? How do you come back from that? How do you resolve it? Bravo, Thea, as Kimberly said. Kimberly's like she's your number one fan. I'll be the president of your fan club, Thea.
I
Um,
think I messed up. Listen, I just need to put this out here. I messed up and I got my signals crossed. Being vulnerable, open and honest, getting it first out on the table, no projection onto her as if she was the problem. Take ownership. As a man, I would just say, you know what? I missed it. I am sorry. Can we hard stop, reset, engage again? Own it.
Hmm.
Do- I like that. It is. It's difficult to own. Our ego and pride gets in the way.
Oh yeah, listen, I for so many years projected onto her that she was the issue. And what I realized, I was a man. I was pretending to be a man, acting like a little boy. I
Mm,
was overexposed but underdeveloped. I was hanging with a group of guys who were married, but they were not marriage minded. And what I recognized, I was showing up in my relationship with behavior of control, the need to be right, the need to get the last word in, the need to shut her down. And what I recognized, I had so many issues within my own self that I was not addressing. And until I went to therapy and the therapist said, whatever you don't deal with will eventually deal with you, I recognized I would keep hitting my head up against a relationship wall because of me instead of her.
mm, mm. You better speak it.
Yeah.
Speak it. I I do. I think our ego totally. I agree with you. I think our ego gets into the way, and we push our whatever didn't work onto that person instead of looking at ourselves.
Yeah.
And as a
And I
man,
think,
because men are always like, you need to fix this and you need to fix that. So Simon, I mean Theo, I love that you actually even speak that because it's hard for men. I'm not going to say all men, but a lot of men to kind of own that because y'all haven't been, I don't think, raised to do that. No?
Yeah. And
No,
it's the
yeah.
and the apologies with the but. I'm sorry, but that is the
Mhm.
biggest. That's my biggest pet peeve right there.
Well,
And I want you to tell me what you're sorry for. I'm sorry. What are you
mhm.
sorry for? Tell me what you're sorry for, and don't tell me I'm sorry, but you did X, Y, Z. That to me is like,
Well,
I
I
don't know
think
what
what Theo said, yeah.
that's, but
I think what Theo said is pretty amazing, to have that amount of accountability and recognition. And I think what Natalie was asking about when it goes wrong, I think as women, we tend to be the ones to make the excuses, to
Mhm.
say, we continue to make a lot of excuses for the bad behavior. We make excuses if there's something I feel like we try harder to make it work, and then we end up getting defensive, and making excuses, and
Mhm.
we don't want to hear from our
Blaming.
friends, but we can easily diagnose their situations and not recognize, what's wrong in our own situations. And unfortunately, and I'm just speaking from personal experience, not for, every woman, obviously, but for myself and friends, we make so many excuses when we want to stay in the relationship and we want it to work. And we brush a lot of things under the rug until it gets to a point, to a boiling point, when if we would have been accountable and stood up for ourselves and recognized what was going wrong, whether it was our fault or not, and stepped away, then we could have saved ourselves and maybe that other person a lot of time, energy, heartache, heartbreak, and just step away. And it's really hard because, again, we get comfortable. There's a comfort in being with the same person, even if it's not working, and you have that. Theo said on his live, which I loved, the great pretender. You have this image that's out there for the public, for the fake book, for everyone else. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to break away from that, even when things aren't right. So we tend to, just keep pretending and just keep going.
I
Yeah.
like what you said, Anne, and a lot of women also, and I'm only speaking from my perspective, like to say I have a boyfriend or I have a husband because it sort
Mm-hmm.
of helps to validate them and their self-worth. And even
Mm-hmm.
if it's stringing along that person, even if it's not working, it's
Mm-hmm.
when I have a husband, I have a boyfriend, but when shit hits the fan, he did this. Well, where is your accountability and why did you stay? Or what
Mm-hmm.
was your part in the reason why it didn't work out?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
and
I,
you, yeah, and you said something really powerful in the great pretender,
yeah,
and we I think because of we have so many ways of where we can project what we want people to see, right? Especially even in our relationships. So moving moving into that and instead of just being remote in relationships, yes, it's important to understand how, yep, how do you move from that space into a place where you can be truly, as Kimberly said, unconditional, vulnerable in your relationships? It becomes a form of unconditional love. How do we start to move in that direction? And I'm gonna start with Theo because he did talk about the Great Pretender on his live.
So
Mhm.
this is gonna sound crazy. I think every relationship needs to do a SWOT analysis. We need to say every 30 days if we're hanging. And I know this is probably a bit over the top, but this is all I got right now.
Go
What's
ahead.
our strengths? What's our
Mhm.
weaknesses? What's our threats? And what's our opportunities? And if we do a SWOT analysis every 30 days in our relationship, then after 90 days, after a quarter, and I know it sounds very businesslike, but it's understanding, okay, we can move to the next 90 days, the next season. But if the SWOT analysis is saying that this is not working, it is better to let go. And I'm speaking for me, it is better to let go of a piece of a man because you don't have a whole man if I'm not willing to get better. If I'm
Right.
willing to get better and I'm demonstrating behaviors and habits that show that I'm getting better, not just to win your heart, but because I want to become a better human being for myself and with you.
So what do you say to those people who are dating multiple people and they got to do like 12 SWOT analysis over and over? I mean, for real, people out here in the streets getting it in. So I'm just saying, when you are dating multiple and people are newly divorced, they like figuring out who they want to be with, or they're newly out of a relationship. Can they do a SWOT analysis with all them with four different people?
No, I think what Theo said is actually accurate. But here's the I think the most telling piece of what he said is that men, and I'm not saying all men, I'm saying some men in dating situations, they tend to have a goal of winning your heart, not
Mhm.
not necessarily developing a long lasting and sustaining relationship with you. So I feel like for men that men unfortunately move on a journey of self discovery at like a Neolithic pace. We are very slow to maybe unpack certain things and speak about certain vulnerabilities. So we'll just date a woman in terms of trying to conquer the situation and not genuinely thinking like, okay, this is potentially going to be my wife or my life partner. So that's why I said earlier that sometimes we might use these love languages and social cues as ways to just aid us on our journey to win your heart and not
Mhm.
necessarily cherish your heart and care for you. We just
Yes.
win it. It's like, when you hear like the player talk in the bar, oh, I took down 5 girls last week. Oh, I went here and I took
But
down 10.
that's sport,
Yeah.
believe.
But he has a good point
I,
that
I
men
forgot
want to win.
the
It's a
part.
game. They want to win.
Yeah, yeah. So,
And
so some
yeah.
guys are just playing the game to
Hmm.
win.
Hmm.
They don't care about the casualties along the way.
Yeah, and just to what Theo said, I agree, well, not with the SWAT so much, but just the communication and just not letting things that bother you, go too far, speak about them, don't get passive aggressive, speak up right away, talk about things that bother you, just communicate every day. And Natalie, as far as like, the dating multiple guys, when my girlfriend LaShonda said it best, dating right now, you're collecting data. That's dating. You're collecting data. Just get the information, collect the data, you know, and the data will analyze itself. After a while, that's what data does. You collect different scenarios. And I remember at one point, I have different guys texting me, reaching out to me, DMing, and sometimes I'd ask all three of them the same question, you know, the same exact question, and I would get three different answers. And I would just, write it down, make a note, because I'm just collecting data because I would know immediately, who I'm vibing with and who I'm not, just based on their answers. And I never didn't necessarily have to tell you, oh, I didn't like your answer, whatever, because what do you do when you collect data? You look at it at the end and you analyze it. If I send 3 people the same picture, someone's going to write back, oh, you look beautiful. Someone's going to say, oh, I can't see your shoes. What do your shoes look like? And then someone else is going to say, oh, I'm serious. These were responses, the same exact picture. And for me, that was just collecting data. I know who I'm vibing with. I know who I'm not. So that's all. It's like, don't just, as women, just really sit back and analyze these guys, because I do think a lot of them just want to win. Just like you said, they're just out to win. And that's not necessarily taking care of your heart.
I mean, that's
so which answer did you like the best? The shoe guy? Which answer won out the best? The shoe man who wanted to see your feet? No,
absolutely not. That was just the wrong answer all along.
So Theo has this one of these ideas in his book, The Ignite the Power of Women, a guide for men. We talked about this in the live, Theo, and I think this is great for this topic, the love language. The MVP, right? And it's the most vulnerable person. How does that play out? How do you get to that point? I want us to kind of really think about that, because we are talking about rebuilding Black love this month. And actually, that's what we always were doing in Stacked After Hours. But I really want to kind of expand upon that idea. And Theo, you can tell it. Go ahead.
So, most vulnerable person is really coming to a place where you decide, do I want to show up as a person who wants to be better, who wants to do right by individuals, and who wants to just be honest about where they are? Now, that doesn't mean I play the victim, cry me a river, blah, blah, blah. But being the most vulnerable person is understanding that I will listen more, talk less. I will ask, not just tell. And I will lean in to say, tell me more, because it's in that vulnerability that you're discovering yourself and that person.
And now, is the Black woman ready for a vulnerable Black man?
That's a good question.
It depends on the woman. I mean, Anne, Sunshine, Natalie, are y'all ready for a vulnerable man?
I am. But it's a lot.
I mean, let's recall we had the conversation where I don't want to say anyone's name. They were not fond of someone crying. If someone was to pour their heart out and share their life traumas, someone was not fond of that.
I think I was misquoted and misinterpreted. I did say I don't have a problem with a man showing vulnerability where he's supposed to, or anyone, and I said it for both men and women. But when it comes to manipulative crying because I want to get you back because you found out that I was cheating, those things do not fly over very well with me. That's what I was getting at. But you guys
it's funny. Somebody on one of the Facebook users said women ridicule men for being vulnerable. Do we?
Yes.
We do.
Some women do.
I think because it's truth. It's their truth. It's what they feel and what they say. And it's a new frontier.
Yeah, we don't like the crying. Yeah.
I feel like it is at times.
Yeah.
So
we don't like the crying.
There's crying because you are vulnerable and you are in touch with your emotions. And there's crying because you messed up and you're trying to see if you can work it, because men are hunters, to get back in her good graces. So you have to
like Theo, one time I went to see Juice when it first came out. And like when Raheem got shot, I shed a tear. I was like, oh snap, they killed, like Raheem got killed by his best friend. It literally caught me off guard. This girl went back to high school and the whole school knew I was like, it went from me shedding a tear like Denzel in Glory to me blubbering in the whole theater. Like, oh, you was
That's some
crying over that
vulnerability.
tear.
Denzel in
Yeah.
Glory, child. That tear is sexy. I don't care what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one tear is cool. And that's what I
That was
gave.
a
I
good
gave the
cry.
one
That was a
tear
good
for
cry.
Raheem.
That was a purposeful cry.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
So I gave one tear for Raheem. She told people, oh, he was crying. I looked over, he's like wiping his face and sniffling. And I'm like, damn, like I can't show support and love for a black man that just lost his life.
Yes.
It's like,
So women have to then, to your point, Dr. Malik, is discern and say,
Mhm.
okay, Joker, let me just understand what's going on here. And
Right.
here's the thing, and I said this before, ladies, you have a sixth sense, you have an intuition, you have an instinct. You know when we're telling the truth, and you know when we are faking the funk. You just know.
Mhm.
And it's using that discernment.
Yeah.
Well said.
Somebody say, rest in peace, Raheem. Yes.
Dr. Malik.
that
Yes.
was
Dr.
a
Malik.
moment for our people. I think all people, men and women included, I think we want to be vulnerable. I think we want to share love and express love. But I think there are too many contradictory messages flying across. That's why I think, and it's funny they call it love language, because I feel like language is meant to be misinterpreted and misunderstood. So I feel like there's almost built in and woven into the name of it this layer that you might misunderstand and you might not get this right. And I feel like this only occurs with romantic relationships. I think you don't have this level of dissection with your job. Let's say I can't go to my job and say, this is how I want you to work with me. I either like this job or I don't like it, or I leave. So
But
it's like,
I think it shows up. Does it not? I think it shows up in your actions, like how you perform on the job, so on and so forth. In certain
There's
things.
also different types of learning on the job. You can learn by actually doing it, or actually sitting and reading, or you actually, So there's different types of learning as well on the job.
There's
but I
various.
guess if you apply that to your dating life, you would listen to the person, pay attention. Like,
Right.
if you're dating someone and you're really paying attention and observant, they will show you who they are. The pretender can only last for a few weeks.
Exactly. And it goes right back to communication.
It is.
Mhm.
Dang, y'all, it's
And
time.
it goes right back to collecting that data.
It's going back to collecting data and trying to become the MVP.
But now,
We
do you
are out of time.
communicate
This
this
was
data?
so daggone good. Oh my gosh, y'all. Ooh, this is good. I think we need a part 2. Thank you, Anne, for your first time. You were awesome.
Thank you.
Of course, Dr. Malik, he has graduated. We have basically given him an honorary degree. He's a And then Theo, I'll get his
Theo.
book. Brothers, please get his book. Sisters, get his book. I'm ecstatic that everybody was on here. Y'all rocked it out. We are going into the after party to continue this conversation. But thank you guys. Thank you again. I appreciate you, your time, your efforts, and all that you do. Yep. And we're going to talk a little bit
Thank you, Natalie.
about ability.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. See you next week.
Okay. Good night.
Take care, everybody.
Good
Good night.
Bye.
Join Stacked After Hours, The Spot, where grown men and women gather to have candid, also honest discussions about the state of life, love, and more. The Spot is a hybrid of in-person and weekly virtual gatherings. Join our Facebook group and answer our daily questions. Subscribe to our YouTube for our weekly live talk shows, and join us on Zoom for our talk show after parties for lively conversations with other opinionated, grown, and sexy professionals. Just search, like, follow, and subscribe to Stack After Hours on Facebook groups and YouTube. Also like and follow our brand pages at Be Stacked Wellness on Facebook and IG. So wherever you are, at home or abroad, pull out your laptop, tablet, or smartphone and join in the conversation with the members of Stacked After Hours. The Spot by Be Stacked Wellness. See you there.
As you know, and if you are new to the Stacked family, we always keep our conversations lit and enlightening.